They told me I'd have both of them tonight. Two alphas with identical faces, dangerous smiles, and eyes that promised things I was too afraid to name. I should have run the second those words left their mouths. Should have told them to go straight to hell and walked out of that penthouse with whatever dignity I had left. But I didn't. Because my baby sister was dying 3 floors below us in Chicago Memorial's ICU, and these women, these beautiful, terrifying strangers, were the only ones offering to save her. The scent hit me first. Leather and smoke and something darker I couldn't name. It wrapped around my throat like a hand, squeezing just enough to make breathing hard. My suppressants were failing. I could feel it in the way my skin heated, in the tremor running through my fingers as I clutched my phone. The taller one stepped closer. Her eyes were storm gray, cold enough to freeze. You understand what we're asking, don't you, Omega? I hated how that word sounded in her mouth. Possessive. Final. You want me to, my voice cracked. I forced the words out anyway. Sleep with both of you tonight. In exchange for paying Elena's medical bills. The other one smiled. Same face, different energy. Warmer, but somehow more dangerous because of it. Not just tonight, sweetheart. Her voice was silk over steel. We want you for 6 months. Exclusively ours. No other alphas. No suppressants. No running. My stomach dropped. 6 months of being theirs. Of letting them touch me, claim me, use me however they wanted. And if I say no? The cold one's smile was razor sharp. Then your sister dies in 4 days when they pull the plug. Your choice. I looked between them. These twin nightmares offering salvation wrapped in damnation. God help me, I was going to say yes. The penthouse swallowed me whole. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased Chicago's skyline like it was a painting meant for them alone. Furniture that probably cost more than my entire year's rent. Art on the walls that looked original. Everything screamed wealth in a way that made my stomach turn. 3 hours earlier, my life had been normal. Well, as normal as it gets for a broke Omega working 2 jobs in downtown Chicago while putting herself through art school. I had my studio apartment in Pilsen. My Tuesday morning life drawing class. My weekend shifts at the coffee shop on Randolph Street. I had Elena, my baby sister, 17 years old, about to start her senior year at Whitney Young. Smart as hell, funny, the only family I had left after our parents died in a car crash 5 years ago. Then she collapsed during football practice. Brain aneurysm. Catastrophic bleeding. Emergency surgery that saved her life, but left her in a coma with complications the doctors said would require months of intensive treatment. Treatment our insurance wouldn't cover. I sat in the ICU waiting room at 2 in the morning, staring at a bill that might as well have said $1 million for all the chance I had of paying it. $375,000. That's what they needed up front to keep her in the program, to give her the experimental therapy that might bring her back. I had $800 in my checking account. I'd already called everyone I could think of. Extended family who'd written us off after Mom and Dad died. Friends who were just as broke as me. I'd started a GoFundMe that raised $2,000 in 3 days. A drop in an ocean I was drowning in. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. We can help with your sister's medical expenses. Meet us at the Sinclair Hotel Penthouse Suite. Come alone. D. Moretti. I stared at the message until my vision blurred. Moretti. Everyone in Chicago knew that name. The Moretti family ran half the city's underground. Gambling. Protection. Investments that skirted the legal line. I'd heard rumors about the twin alphas who'd taken over after their mother died. Ruthless. Brilliant. Untouchable. And apparently watching me. I should have deleted the message. Should have blocked the number and figured out some other way to save Elena. But there was no other way. I'd exhausted every option, begged every person, applied for every grant and loan and charity program. The hospital had already told me they'd start comfort care in 4 days if we couldn't pay. 4 days until they killed my sister. So I texted back, yes. The response was immediate. Now. Car waiting outside. I looked out the waiting room window. A black SUV sat at the curb, tinted windows reflecting the street lights. A woman in a dark suit stood beside it, watching the entrance. Every instinct I had screamed danger, but desperation is louder than instinct. I grabbed my jacket, told the nurse I'd be back in an hour, and walked outside into the September cold. The woman opened the SUV door without speaking. I climbed in. The interior smelled like expensive leather and alpha pheromones strong enough that my suppressants couldn't quite mask the way my body wanted to react. I pressed my knees together, focused on breathing through my mouth. The drive took 15 minutes. The Sinclair rose above Michigan Avenue like a blade of glass and steel, the kind of place where rooms started at $1,000 a night. The elevator required a key card to access the penthouse. The suited woman used hers, pressed the button, and stepped back out. The doors closed. My reflection stared back at me in the polished metal. Dark blonde hair falling into tired blue eyes. Clothes that hadn't been changed in 2 days. I looked like exactly what I was, a desperate Omega with nothing left to lose. The elevator slowed. Stopped. The doors opened onto a private foyer with only one set of double doors. They swung open before I could knock. And there they were. Identical. That was my first thought. Completely, impossibly identical. Same height, well over 6 feet. Same build, broad shoulders, lean muscle. Same face, sharp jawlines, full mouths, straight noses that looked like they'd been broken and reset perfectly. Same thick dark hair, though one wore hers slightly longer. Same storm gray eyes that locked onto me with an intensity that made my knees weak. The one on the left spoke first. Her voice was smooth, controlled. She wore a charcoal suit with no tie, top button undone. Kieran Hayes. Not a question. Thank you for coming. I'm Daria Moretti. This is my sister Kala. Kala didn't smile. She leaned against the door frame in all black, jeans, Henley, boots, arms crossed over her chest. Her eyes dragged over me slowly, cataloging every detail. Come in, Omega. We have things to discuss. That word again. Omega. Like it defined everything I was. I forced myself to move forward, past them into the penthouse. The space smelled overwhelmingly alpha. My suppressants were definitely failing. I could feel my body responding, warming, pulse quickening. I wrapped my arms around myself. Drink. Daria moved to a bar cart, pouring something amber into 3 glasses. I don't. It's not a request. Kala shut the door. The lock clicked with finality. You're going to want it for this conversation. She guided me to a white leather couch with a hand on my lower back. Possessive. Familiar. Like she had every right to touch me. I jerked away. Her smile was sharp. Daria handed me a glass. I didn't drink, just held it to give my shaking hands something to do. They sat across from me, flanking a chrome coffee table. Mirror images studying their prey. You're wondering how we know about Elena, Daria said. It wasn't a question. We make it our business to know everything that happens in Chicago. Your sister's case came to our attention. We can save her. My heart hammered against my ribs. Why would you help us? We're nobody. Kala's laugh was low, dark. You're not nobody. Not anymore. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. We want something in return. Daria set down her glass. 6 months of your time. You move into our penthouse. You belong to us exclusively. And you give us what we need. The air left my lungs. You want me to be your... What? Kept Omega. Kala's eyes were predator cold. We want you to be ours. Both of ours. We share everything, sweetheart. Always have. I stood, headed for the door. Daria was faster, suddenly in my space. not touching, but blocking my path with her body. The scent of her made my head spin. Sit. Listen. Then decide. If your pride is worth more than your sister's life. The cruelty of it stole my breath. But she was right. I sat. Daria returned to her position, expression softer now. We're not asking you to sell yourself. We're offering a mutually beneficial arrangement. We pay for Elena's treatment, all of it. The experimental therapy, the rehabilitation, everything. Private room, best doctors, full care until she recovers completely. And what do I have to do? My voice shook. Live with us, Kala said bluntly. Stop taking suppressants. Let your heat cycles come naturally. Be available to both of us whenever we want you. Heat flooded my face. You want me to? With both of us? Yes. No shame in Daria's voice. We don't do half measures, Kiran. If you agree to this, you're ours completely. Both of us. However we want. Whenever we want. I looked between them. Why me? You're alphas from one of the most powerful families in Chicago. You could have any Omega you wanted. Something flickered in Kala's expression. We don't want just any Omega. We want one who understands sacrifice. Who'd do anything to protect the people they love. She tilted her head. Besides, we've been watching you for 3 months. You're intriguing. My stomach dropped. 3 months. Daria's smile was apologetic but unapologetic. We first saw you at that gallery opening in June. You were sketching in the corner, ignoring everyone. Something about you caught our attention. We've been keeping track since then. I struggled for words. That's stalking. That's due diligence, Kala corrected. We needed to know if you'd be compatible. The implications made me dizzy. They'd been watching me. Learning my routines, my habits. Planning this. What if I say no? Daria's expression went carefully neutral. Then we walk away. Your sister gets transferred to county hospice. They'll keep her comfortable until she didn't finish. She didn't have to. And if I say yes? Then we call the hospital tonight. Kala pulled out her phone. Wire transfer for the full amount. Elena starts the experimental treatment tomorrow morning. Private suite, around-the-clock care. Whatever she needs. For 6 months of my life. For 6 months of being worshipped by 2 alphas who'll give you everything you could want. Daria's voice dropped lower. Pleasure. Protection. Luxury. The only thing we ask is exclusivity and obedience. The word obedience sent ice through my veins. But Elena's face flashed in my mind. Pale against the hospital sheets. Machines breathing for her. I need time to think. Kala's smile was razor-edged. You have until sunrise. That's 6 hours. After that, the offer expires. The SUV dropped me back at the hospital in silence. I went straight to Elena's room. Stood beside her bed, watching the ventilator force her chest to rise and fall. Tubes everywhere. Machines beeping. My baby sister reduced to numbers on monitors. She was supposed to be worrying about college applications and homecoming dates. Instead, she was dying. The nurse came in to check her vitals. Any change? I asked, already knowing the answer. She gave me that pitying look I'd grown to hate. No, honey. But she's stable for now. Stable. Such a clinical word for not dead yet. I pulled up the chair I'd been living in for 4 days. Took Elena's hand. Her skin was warm but lifeless. I traced the calluses on her palm from throwing footballs. The scar on her thumb from the time she'd tried to whittle a walking stick and nearly cut her finger off. I don't know what to do, I whispered. They're asking me to do something that goes against everything Mom taught us. But if I don't? The ventilator hissed. Elena didn't answer. I stayed there until the sky started to lighten outside the windows. Nurses changed shifts. Doctors made rounds. The city woke up around us. My phone buzzed at 5:47 a.m. Time's almost up, Omega. What's your answer? I stared at the message. At Elena's face. at the machines keeping her alive. Mom used to say that love meant sacrifice. That family came before pride, before comfort, before everything. She'd sacrificed everything for us after Dad died. Worked herself to exhaustion to keep us fed and housed and safe. Now it was my turn. I typed 3 letters, yes. The response was immediate. Smart girl. Car will pick you up in 1 hour. Pack light. We'll provide everything else. Then, from Daria, the hospital will receive payment confirmation within 10 minutes. Elena starts treatment this afternoon. I called the nurse's station. Can I speak to Dr. Martinez? She arrived 5 minutes later, tablet in hand, expression confused. Miss Hayes, what's? Her tablet pinged. She looked down, then up at me with wide eyes. The account. Someone just paid the full balance. Plus 6 months advance for extended care. Relief crashed through me so hard I couldn't breathe. So she can get the treatment? We'll start prep immediately. The first procedure is scheduled for 2 p.m. Dr. Martinez was still staring at her tablet. May I ask who? This is nearly $500,000. A benefactor. Someone who wants to remain anonymous. She nodded slowly, clearly not believing me, but not about to question money that would save her patient. Well, thank whoever it is. They just gave your sister a real chance. I looked at Elena one more time. Memorized her face before everything changed. I love you, I whispered. I'm doing this for you. Please come back to me. Then I walked out of the hospital, down to the waiting SUV, and let them take me to the penthouse that would be my cage for the next 6 months. The door closed behind me with a finality that sounded like goodbye. To my old life. My freedom. Myself. But Elena would live. That's all that mattered. The SUV pulled up to the Sinclair again. Same building. Same doorman who nodded like he knew exactly what I was walking into. This time I had a duffel bag with 3 days' worth of clothes, my sketchbook, and a phone charger. Everything else I owned could rot in my apartment for all I cared. The elevator ride felt different now. Slower. Like the building itself was giving me one last chance to run. I didn't take it. The penthouse doors opened before I reached them. Calla stood there, still in black, looking like she hadn't slept. Her eyes raked over me, my rumpled shirt, my unwashed hair, the exhaustion I wore like a second skin. You look like hell. Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear right now. Her mouth curved. Not quite a smile, but close. Come on. Daria's in a meeting. I'll show you around. I followed her inside. In daylight, the penthouse was even more overwhelming. Exposed brick walls mixed with floor-to-ceiling windows. Modern furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. A kitchen with appliances I couldn't name. Everything screamed wealth in a way that made my stomach turn. Your room's this way. Calla led me down a hallway lined with abstract art. She pushed open a door at the end. The bedroom was bigger than my entire apartment. King-size bed with black silk sheets. Walk-in closet. Attached bathroom with a shower that could fit 4 people. Windows overlooking Lake Michigan, the water gray and choppy under September clouds. I couldn't find words. Yours. For now. Calla leaned against the doorframe, watching me. Daria's room is next door. Mine's across the hall. Connected by interior doors that lock from your side. Only. My head snapped toward her. What? We're not monsters, Kieran. You control access to your space. We won't come in unless you invite us. Her eyes darkened. But you will invite us eventually. The certainty in her voice made my skin prickle. What if I don't? Then we wait. We're patient women when we want something. She pushed off the doorframe, moved closer. But fair warning, your suppressants are going to wear off in about 3 days. When your heat hits without them, you're going to be begging us to touch you. Heat flooded my face. I can get more suppressants. No, you can't. That was part of the deal. No suppressants for 6 months. We want you natural. Responsive. Ours. She reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. Her fingers brushed my neck and I flinched. Her scent was already changing, sweetening. It's driving us crazy. I stepped back, putting space between us. I need to shower. Alone. Her smile was all teeth. For now. She left, closing the door behind her. I stood there shaking. Adrenaline and fear and something else I didn't want to name coursing through me. This was real. I'd actually sold myself to 2 alpha strangers for 6 months. 6 months of them touching me, using me, owning me. The bathroom mirror showed a stranger's face. Too pale. Too thin. Eyes too wide. I looked scared. I was scared. But Elena was getting treatment right now. The experimental therapy that would save her life. That's what mattered. I could survive 6 months of anything for her. The shower was scalding. The water pressure intense enough to hurt. I stayed under it until my skin was red, until the hospital smell was gone, until I could breathe without my chest aching. When I finally got out, there were clothes laid out on the bed. Expensive clothes in my exact size. Jeans that actually fit. A soft gray Henley. Underwear that wasn't from a discount store. They'd been planning this. Buying clothes. Preparing the room. Mapping out how to trap me. I dressed because I didn't have a choice. Then opened my door to explore. The hallway was empty. I could hear voices from somewhere deeper in the penthouse. Daria's smooth tone. Another woman's rougher voice. Words I couldn't make out. The living room was massive. Leather couches arranged around a glass coffee table. A bar that would make any restaurant jealous. Bookshelves filled with everything from classic literature to tactical manuals. And windows everywhere, showing Chicago stretching out below us like we owned it. Beautiful, isn't it? I spun. Daria stood behind me, wearing different clothes now. Dark jeans, white button-down with sleeves rolled to her elbows. She looked softer in daylight. Less dangerous. But I knew better. The view, she clarified, moving to stand beside me. We bought this place specifically for it. Calla wanted something higher, but I liked being able to see the lake. It's nice. And you're terrified. Not a question. She turned to face me fully. That's understandable. This is a lot to process. But I want you to know something, Kieran. We don't want you scared. We want you willing. Then you shouldn't have blackmailed me. Her expression didn't change. We gave you a choice. Not a good choice, but a choice nonetheless. You chose your sister. That takes courage. It takes desperation. Those aren't mutually exclusive. She moved closer slowly, like approaching a spooked animal. I know you don't trust us. I know you think we're going to hurt you. But we're not. We're going to take care of you. Protect you. Give you everything you need except freedom. Freedom is overrated when you're starving and broken. Her hand came up, cupped my jaw. The touch was gentle but firm enough that I couldn't pull away. We researched you thoroughly, Kieran. 2 jobs. Night classes. An apartment with heat that barely works. You've been surviving, not living. We're offering you a chance to actually live. As your prisoner. As our Omega. There's a difference. Before I could respond, her mouth was on mine. The kiss was soft. Testing. Nothing like I expected from an alpha who'd bought me. She tasted like coffee and something darker, and despite everything, my body responded. Heat pooled low in my stomach. My suppressants were definitely failing. She pulled back, eyes searching mine. You feel it too. The pull. It's not just the arrangement, Kieran. There's chemistry here. Real chemistry. I wanted to deny it. Couldn't. That doesn't make this right. Maybe not. But it makes it easier. She stepped back, giving me space. Come on. I'll show you the rest of the place. Then we're taking you shopping. I don't need. You do. Your clothes are threadbare. Your shoes have holes. And you own exactly 2 pairs of jeans. We're fixing that. The tour took 20 minutes. 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. An office that looked like a command center with multiple monitors and enough tech to run a small country. A gym with equipment I'd only seen in magazines. And a studio. I stopped in the doorway staring. North-facing windows flooded the space with perfect light. Empty canvases stacked against one wall. A professional easel in the center. Paints, brushes, supplies I'd dreamed about but could never afford. "You paint," Daria said behind me. "We saw your portfolio online. You're talented. This is yours to use however you want." Something cracked in my chest. "Why?" "Because keeping you prisoner in luxury is pointless if you're miserable. We want you happy, Kieran. Comfortable. Willing." She moved past me into the studio, trailing fingers over the easel. "Paint whatever you want. Sell it if you want. This space is yours. No conditions." I walked in slowly, touching canvases, opening paint tubes. Everything was top-of-the-line professional grade. The kind of supplies I'd window shopped for years. "Thank you," I whispered, hating how much I meant it. "Don't thank us yet." Kala's voice from the doorway made me turn. She'd changed to dark jeans, leather jacket, looking like trouble personified. "We've got a car waiting. Time to make you look like you belong with us." The shopping trip was surreal. They took me to stores on Michigan Avenue where price tags didn't exist because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Kala picked out jeans and jackets with a critical eye. Daria chose softer things, sweaters, button-downs, colors that brought out my eyes. They argued good-naturedly about styles while I stood there like a doll being dressed. "She needs more color," Daria said, holding up a blue Henley. "She looks better in dark colors. Brings out the contrast." Kala grabbed a black shirt instead. "I'm standing right here," I said. They both turned to me. Identical smiles that made my breath catch. "What do you want?" Daria asked. The question felt like a test. "I don't know. My clothes always came from thrift stores." Something shifted in Kala's expression. "Then we'll get both. And everything else you might want." By the time we left, they'd bought me an entire wardrobe. Clothes for every occasion I could imagine and several I couldn't. Shoes that cost more than my monthly rent used to. A leather jacket that fit like it was made for me because Kala insisted on having it tailored on the spot. "This is too much," I said as we loaded bags into the SUV. "This is nothing." Daria's hand found my lower back, guiding me into the car. "Wait until you see what we do for birthdays." The drive back should have been uncomfortable. Instead, Daria asked about my art, about what I wanted to paint, about my inspirations. Kala listened quietly, interjecting occasionally with surprisingly insightful questions. They made me feel like I mattered beyond just being their botomega. That's what scared me most. How easy it would be to forget this wasn't real. To believe they actually cared instead of just wanting to own me. Back at the penthouse, Kala disappeared into her room while Daria helped me put clothes away. Her hands brushed mine repeatedly. Small touches, deliberate but not aggressive. Testing boundaries. "Dinner's at 7, she said, hanging up the last shirt. "We, together. House rule." "What are the other house rules?" "Honestly, we're making them up as we go. We've never done this before." She sat on my bed, patted the space beside her. I stayed standing. "But the important ones are simple. You don't leave without one of us. You don't take suppressants. You don't lie to us. And you lock your door at night until you're ready." "Ready for what?" "Not to," she smiled, gentle but with steel beneath. "What happens if I break a rule?" "Then we remind you who you belong to. Gently at first. Less gently if necessary." "You mean you'd punish me?" "We'd correct you. There's a difference." She stood, moved into my space until I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. "We're not cruel, Kieran. But we are possessive. You agreed to be ours. That means something to us. It's going to mean something to you too. Whether you want it to or not." Her scent wrapped around me. Pine and something darker, more complex. My body responded despite my mind screaming to stay distant. The suppressants were definitely wearing off. I could feel it in my heightened sensitivity. The way my skin felt too tight. The warmth building in my core. "You're going into heat soon," Daria murmured, reading my body like a book. "3 days, maybe 4. When it hits, you're going to need us. Your body's going to crave an alpha's touch. What if I don't want you? Then we'll make you want us." She leaned in, lips brushing my ear. "We're very good at getting what we want, Kieran. And we want you desperate for us." She pulled back, left me standing there shaking and turned on and terrified. The door clicked shut behind her. I collapsed onto the bed, pressing my palms against my eyes. 3 days until my heat. 3 days until I'd be vulnerable, needy, probably begging them to touch me just like Kala had said. 3 days to figure out how to survive this without losing myself completely. But Elena was safe. Treatment had started. In 6 months, I'd walk away with my sister healthy and a bank account that would let us start over somewhere far from Chicago. I just had to survive 6 months first. The question was whether I'd still be me when it was over. A knock on the door made me sit up. "Kieran?" "Dinner." Kala's voice, rougher than Daria's. Impatient. I wiped my face, checked the mirror. My eyes were red but dry. "Good enough." I opened the door. Kala leaned against the frame, arms crossed. Her eyes tracked over my face, lingering on the telltale signs of almost crying. "You okay?" "Fine." Liar. But she didn't push. Just stepped back, gestured down the hall. "Come on." Daria cooked. If we're late, she'll sulk. Daria cooks? One of many hidden talents. Kala's hand found my lower back again. These alphas couldn't seem to stop touching me. She's good at it too. Pretentious French shit mostly, but it tastes incredible. The dining room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. A table set for 3. Candles flickering. Music playing softly from hidden speakers. Daria stood at the head of the table in an apron that said, "Kiss the cook," in faded letters. The domesticity of it cracked something in my chest. Perfect timing. Daria smiled, pulling off the apron. "Sit, both of you." Kala guided me to the chair on Daria's right. She took the one on the left, flanking her, trapping me between them. Daria served cocoa vin, roasted vegetables, bread that smelled like heaven. My stomach growled. I hadn't eaten since yesterday. "When's the last time you had a real meal?" Daria asked, watching me stare at the food. "I eat." That's not what I asked. She placed a full plate in front of me. "Eat all of it. You're too thin." I wanted to argue, but the food smelled incredible and I was starving and pride didn't fill an empty stomach. I picked up my fork. The first bite was transcendent. Rich, perfectly seasoned, melting on my tongue. I couldn't stop. A small sound of pleasure escaped me. Both alphas went very still. "You like it?" Kala said, voice lower than before. I swallowed. "It's good. Good." Daria's eyes were dark and tense. "We're going to feed you like this every night. Build your strength back up. You've been running on fumes too long." We ate in silence for a few minutes. The food was too good to rush, but I could feel their eyes on me, watching every bite, every reaction. It should have been uncomfortable. Instead, it felt almost caring. "Tell us about your art," Daria said eventually. "What do you paint?" I took a sip of wine. "Expensive. Probably older than me. People mostly. Portraits. I like capturing expressions, moments." "Why?" Kala leaned back in her chair, swirling her own wine. "Because everyone has a story written on their face. Pain, joy, secrets they think they're hiding. I like finding it, putting it on canvas." "What story do you see on our faces?" Daria asked. I looked between them. Really looked, the way I did when planning a portrait. Loss. Both of you. Something that cut deep and never healed right. The air in the room changed. Kala's joy tightened. Daria's hand stilled on her wine glass. Our mother, Daria said quietly. She died when we were 16. Cancer. We had the money to treat it, but she refused. Said the family business needed the resources more than she did. My chest ached. I'm sorry. Don't be. Kala's voice was hard. She made her choice. Just like you made yours. The comparison stung. That's not the same thing, isn't it? She sacrificed herself for us. You're sacrificing yourself for your sister. Kala leaned forward. The difference is, we're not going to let you destroy yourself. We're going to take care of you. By owning me. By protecting you. Daria reached over, covered my hand with hers. You've been alone too long, Kiran. Fighting too hard just to survive. Let us carry some of that weight. I pulled my hand away. This isn't real. You're not doing this because you care. You're doing it because you want an omega too. To what? Kala's laugh was sharp. If we just wanted to, we could have anyone we wanted. We chose you specifically. Why? Because you're strong. Daria's eyes held mine. Because you're beautiful. Because when we saw you at that gallery, sketching while everyone else was networking, something clicked. You were so focused, so lost in your art. We watched you for an hour. You didn't notice us once. That's not clicking. That's obsession. Maybe. Kala's smile was dangerous. But obsession gets results. And we're very good at getting what we want. The words should have terrified me. Instead, heat curled low in my stomach. The wine was making me lightheaded. Or maybe it was their scent, thick and intoxicating in the enclosed space. More wine. Daria lifted the bottle. I shouldn't. She poured anyway. You should. Your wound too tight. Relax, Kiran. We're not going to hurt you tonight. Tonight, I repeated. What about tomorrow? Tomorrow we start teaching you what it means to be ours. Kala stood, moved behind my chair. Her hands settled on my shoulders, thumbs pressing into tense muscles. But tonight we just want you comfortable. The massage should have felt threatening. Instead it felt incredible. My shoulders had been knotted for days, weeks maybe. Her hands were strong, skilled, working out tension I didn't know I was carrying. A sound escaped me. Half moan, half sigh. Embarrassing. That's it, Kala murmured. Let go. Stop fighting so hard. Daria cleared the plates, refilled my wine. The candlelight made everything softer, dreamlike. Kala's hands moved to my neck, my upper back, finding every knot and easing it loose. My head fell forward. You're good at this, I mumbled. We're good at a lot of things. Her breath was warm against my ear. Tomorrow we'll show you exactly how good. Daria returned, sat beside me. Her hand found my thigh under the table. High enough to make my breath catch. Not high enough to be threatening. How are you feeling? Dizzy. Good dizzy or bad dizzy? I don't know yet. Her thumb traced circles on my inner thigh through my jeans. Your scent is changing. Getting sweeter. You're close to your heat, Kiran. Probably tomorrow night. My head snapped up. That fast? Without suppressants, your body's reverting to its natural cycle. It's going to hit hard. Kala's hand stilled on my shoulders. We'll be ready. We'll take care of you. I don't want. Yes, you do. Daria's hand moved higher. Your body knows what it needs even if your mind won't admit it. When your heat hits, you're going to beg us to touch you. To fill you. To. Stop. The word came out strangled. Please. They stopped. Both of them. Immediately. Too much. Daria's voice was soft, concerned. I need air. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping back. They didn't stop me. I made it to the balcony, pushed through the glass doors into September cold. The wind off Lake Michigan cut through my shirt. I braced my hands on the railing, trying to breathe, trying to think. The door opened behind me. Both of them stepped out, flanking me like bookends. We're pushing too hard, Daria said. I'm sorry. We're not sorry. Kala's hand covered mine on the railing. We want you. We're not going to hide it. But we're also not going to force you. When your heat comes, we'll be there. You can let us help you through it, or you can suffer alone. Your choice. Some choice. Better than no choice at all. Her hand tightened on mine. We're not the enemy, Kieran. We're the ones who saved your sister. Who gave you a home, clothes, food. Who are going to, she paused, worship your body until you forget what it feels like to be alone. I turned to face them. You want me grateful. Compliant. We want you willing. Daria cupped my face with both hands. There's a difference. Not much of one. Then let us show you. Her thumb brushed my lower lip. Let us prove we're more than what you think we are. Her mouth met mine before I could protest. The kiss was different from earlier. Deeper. More demanding. Her tongue traced my lips and I opened for her, helpless against the onslaught. She tasted like wine and want. When she pulled back, Kala was there, turning my face toward her. Her kiss was rougher, more consuming. She kissed like she did everything else, with complete confidence that I'd surrender. And I did. God help me, I kissed her back. When they finally released me, I was breathless, dizzy, clinging to the railing to stay upright. Inside, Daria said, "It's too cold out here." They guided me back in, closed the balcony doors. The sudden warmth made me shiver. Or maybe it was their hands on me, steering me toward the living room couch. "Sit," Kala commanded. I sat. They settled on either side of me, close enough that I could feel their body heat, smell their scent mixing with mine. "We need to establish some things," Daria said. "Ground rules. I thought you said you were making them up as you go." "We are. Right now." Her hand found mine, laced our fingers together. "First rule, honesty. You tell us what you need, what you want, what scares you. No lying." "Second rule," Kala added, her arm draping across the back of the couch behind me. "You don't leave the penthouse without one of us. Chicago's dangerous for unclaimed omegas, especially one who smells as good as you do." "I'm not unclaimed. Not yet." Daria's smile was soft. "But you will be. By the end of 6 months, you'll be wearing our marks. Our scent. Everyone will know you're ours." The possessiveness should have angered me. Instead, it sent heat through my veins. The wine had definitely been a mistake. "Third rule," Kala continued. "Your heat is ours. When it comes, you let us take care of you. We'll make it good, Kieran. Better than anything you've experienced." "I haven't experienced anything." Silence. Both alphas turned to stare at me. "What?" Daria's voice was carefully controlled. Heat flooded my face. "I'm a virgin." "I thought you knew that. From all your stalking." "We knew you didn't have an alpha," Kala said slowly. "We didn't know you'd never." She stopped, her hand tightening on the couch. "You've never been with anyone?" "I've been too busy surviving to date." Daria's hand came up, tilted my face toward her. "You're telling us we're going to be your first?" "Both of us." I nodded, unable to speak. Something dark and possessive flashed in both their eyes. The air got thicker, charged with alpha pheromones that made my head spin. "That changes things," Kala said, her voice rough. "How?" "We'll be gentler. Slower." Daria's thumb traced my jaw. "We'll teach you everything, Kieran. How to take pleasure. How to give it. How to surrender completely." "Tomorrow," Kala added. "When your heat starts, we'll make your first time everything it should be." My heart hammered. What if I'm not ready? "You will be." Daria leaned in, pressed her forehead to mine. "Your body knows what it needs. Trust it. Trust us." I wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at me. And wine. And their scent, wrapping around me like a drug. "Bed," Daria said softly. "You need sleep." They walked me to my room, both of them hovering like I might collapse. At my door, Daria kissed my forehead. Kala kissed my temple. Then they stepped back. "Lock the door," Daria said. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be intense." I closed the door, turned the lock, pressed my back against it, and slid down until I was sitting on the floor. Tomorrow my heat would start. Tomorrow I'd give myself to 2 alphas who'd bought me like property. Tomorrow everything would change. I should have been terrified. Instead, all I felt was anticipation curling hot and dangerous in my stomach. God, what was wrong with me? I pushed off the floor, stripped off my clothes, and crawled into bed. The silk sheets felt cool against my overheated skin. I was burning up, restless, unable to get comfortable no matter how I arranged the pillows. Sleep wouldn't come. I lay there staring at the ceiling, hyper-aware of every sound. Kala's door closing across the hall. Water running in Daria's bathroom next door. The city humming 20 floors below. My skin felt too tight. Every brush of the sheets sent sparks through me. I kicked them off, then pulled them back when the cold air made me shiver. Nothing felt right. Around 3 in the morning, I gave up. Grabbed my sketchbook and pencil from the duffel bag, turned on the bedside lamp. Drawing always calmed me when my mind wouldn't shut off. I started sketching without thinking. Lines becoming features. Shadows becoming depth. When I looked down 20 minutes later, I'd drawn them. Both of them. Daria's softer expression. Kala's sharper edges. The way they looked at me like I was something precious and dangerous at the same time. A knock on the connecting door made me jump. Kieran? Daria's voice, rough with sleep. You okay? I can hear you moving around. I'm fine. Can't sleep. Can I come in? I should have said no. Instead, yeah. The lock clicked. The door opened. Daria stood there in nothing but gray sweatpants. Hair mussed, eyes still heavy with sleep. The sight of her bare torso, lean muscle, a scattering of dark hair, the edge of a tattoo disappearing below her waistband, made my mouth go dry. You're burning up. She moved to the bed, pressed the back of her hand to my forehead. It's starting. Earlier than I thought. What's starting? Your heat. Her eyes searched mine. How do you feel? Restless. Hot. Achy. All of the above. I'm fine. Liar. She sat on the edge of the bed, taking the sketchbook from my hands. Her eyes widened when she saw the drawing. You drew us. Heat flooded my face. I draw when I can't sleep. It's good. Really good. She traced a finger over her own sketched face. Is this how you see us? I don't know. Maybe. She set the sketchbook aside, turned back to me. Your scent is different. Sweeter. It's making it very hard for me to think clearly right now. Then leave. Can't. Her hand found my face, thumb stroking my cheekbone. Your heat started, Kieran. Your body needs an alpha. If I leave you alone, it's going to get worse. Painful. As if to prove her point, a cramp seized my lower abdomen. I gasped, curling forward. There it is. Daria's arms came around me, pulling me against her chest. It's okay. I've got you. It hurts. I know. It'll get worse before it gets better. Her hand rubbed slow circles on my back. Let me help you. Please. Another cramp, stronger this time. I bit back a whimper. The door across the hall opened. Footsteps in the hallway. Then Kala was there, leaning in the doorway wearing only black boxer briefs. Her eyes were dark, predatory. Her heat started? Yeah. Daria's arms tightened around me. She's fighting it. Of course she is. Stubborn. Kala moved into the room, sat on the other side of the bed. Kieran. Look at me. I lifted my head from Daria's chest, met those storm gray eyes. You have 2 choices, Kala said. You can let us help you through this. Make it good. Make it pleasurable. Or you can suffer alone for the next 3 days while your body tears itself apart wanting something it can't have. Which sounds better? I didn't answer. Another cramp cut me off, stronger. I couldn't breathe through it. That's what I thought. Kala's hand settled on my thigh, warm and grounding. Stop fighting. Let us take care of you. We'll go slow. Daria murmured against my hair. We'll make it perfect for you. Your first time should be perfect. The pain was getting worse, spreading from my abdomen through my whole body, making everything ache. I could feel slickness between my legs, my body preparing itself despite my mind's protests. Okay, I whispered. Okay, good girl. Kalla's hand moved higher on my thigh. Lie back. Let us see you. Daria eased me back against the pillows. I was still wearing boxers, nothing else. Both alphas looked at me like I was a feast they'd been denied too long. Beautiful, Daria breathed. Her hand traced down my chest, over my stomach. Even better than I imagined. You imagine this? Every night. For 3 months. Her hand dipped below my waistband, fingers tracing the jut of my hip bone. I've thought about nothing but touching you, tasting you, being inside you. Kalla's hand joined her sister's, both of them exploring my body with reverent touches. We're going to ruin you for anyone else, Kieran. By the time we're done, you won't remember what it feels like to be empty. Her mouth found my neck, lips trailing over the sensitive spot where a bonding mark would go. I arched into it, helpless. Daria's hand wrapped around me through the fabric, stroking slowly. The sensation shot through me like electricity. I'd touched myself before, but it had never felt like this. Never this intense. This overwhelming. Please, I heard myself say. Please what? Kalla's teeth scraped my collarbone. Use your words, Omega. I don't know. I need. Another wave of heat crashed through me. Something. Anything. We'll give you everything. Daria hooked her fingers in my waistband. Lift your hips. I did. She pulled my boxers off in one smooth motion, leaving me completely bare. Both alphas went still, staring. Perfect, Kalla said. Fucking perfect. Then her mouth was on me, and I couldn't think anymore. Could only feel. Her tongue, her lips, the wet heat of her mouth. Daria's hands were everywhere else. Stroking, caressing, learning every inch of my skin. I was going to die. Actually die from the intensity of it. Breathe, Daria commanded, her mouth at my ear. Just feel. Don't think. Kalla pulled off with an obscene sound. Her eyes met mine. You taste incredible. I could do this for hours. Please don't. I can't. The pressure was building too fast, too intense. I'm going to. Let go. Daria's hand wrapped around me where Kalla's mouth had been. Show us how pretty you look when you come apart. The combination of her hand and Kalla's mouth returning was too much. I shattered, crying out, vision going white. Wave after wave of pleasure crashed through me until I couldn't tell where I ended and they began. When I came back to myself, Daria was cleaning me with a warm cloth while Kalla kissed my inner thighs, my hip bones, everywhere she could reach. That was just the beginning, Daria said softly. Your heat's going to last at least 2 days. We're going to take you apart and put you back together over and over until you forget there was ever a time we didn't own you. Not fair, I managed, my voice wrecked. I can't think when you touch me. Good. Kalla moved up my body, settling between my legs. Thinking is overrated. Feeling is better. Her fingers traced lower, finding the slickness my body was producing. One finger circled my entrance, testing. So wet for us already. Your body knows what it needs even if you're still fighting it. She pressed inside slowly. The intrusion was strange, uncomfortable, but not painful. She worked her finger deeper, searching, and then I arched off the bed, a sound escaping me I'd never made before. There it is. Kalla's smile was wicked. Found it. She stroked that spot inside me while Daria's mouth found mine, swallowing my moans. The pleasure was different now. Deeper. More consuming. I could feel my body opening for Kalla, accommodating a second finger, then a third. You're taking this so well, Daria murmured against my lips. Like you were made for us. Maybe I was, I gasped out, too far gone to care how it sounded. Kalla's fingers left me. I whimpered at the loss. Shoo. We're going to give you something better. She positioned herself, and I could feel the blunt pressure of her against me. Bigger than her fingers. Much bigger. Look at me, she commanded. I met her eyes. They were almost black now, pupils blown wide with want. This is going to hurt at first, she said. But we'll make it good. I promise. She pushed forward slowly, carefully. The stretch burned, my body resisting despite the slickness. I tensed. Relax. Daria's hands were on me, soothing, grounding. Breathe through it. Let her in. I tried. Forced my muscles to relax. Kala pushed deeper, inch by excruciating inch. The burn was overwhelming but not unbearable, and underneath it something else was building. A fullness. A rightness that made my breath catch. Almost there, Kala gritted out. You're doing so good, Kieran. Taking me so perfectly. One more push, and she was fully inside me. I felt split open. Claimed. Owned. She stilled, letting me adjust. Her forehead pressed to mine, her breath coming hard. How do you feel? She asked. Full. So full. Good. Because I'm going to move now. Going to show you what it feels like to be thoroughly. She pulled back slowly, then pushed in again. The friction sent sparks through me. She set a steady rhythm, each movement hitting that spot inside me that made stars explode behind my eyes. Daria's hand found me again, stroking in time with her sister's rhythm. The dual sensation was too much. I was going to come apart again, harder this time. That's it, Kala groaned. Squeeze me just like that. You feel incredible, Kieran. So tight. So perfect. Her rhythm faltered, got rougher. I could feel something building at the base of her, pressing against me with each movement. Her knot, Daria explained, seeing my confusion. When she comes, it's going to lock you together. Tie you to her. The idea should have scared me. Instead, it made me desperate. Please. I need. We know what you need. Kala's hand fisted in my hair, tilting my head back. Her mouth found my neck, teeth scraping over the bonding gland. Going to fill you up. Mark you. Make you ours. She thrust deep one final time and her knot swelled, locking us together. The fullness was overwhelming. I could feel her pulsing inside me, heat flooding me. My own release crashed through me again, pulled from me by the sensation of being so completely claimed. We stayed locked together, both of us shaking. Kala's arms came around me, holding me close. I've got you. Just breathe. The knot will go down in about 20 minutes. 20 minutes of being tied to her. Of feeling every pulse, every aftershock. It was intimate in a way I hadn't expected. Vulnerable. Daria was there too, her hands gentle on both of us. You did so well. Took her perfectly. Your turn next, Kala said, her voice rough. My eyes widened. Now, your heat isn't done with you yet. Daria's smile was soft, but her eyes were hungry. And we promised we'd take care of you. Both of us. The heat was already building again. My body demanding more, despite having just been thoroughly claimed. This was going to be a long 2 days. But as Kala held me, still locked inside me, and Daria's hands traced soothing patterns on my skin, I realized something terrifying. I didn't want it to end. The thought terrified me more than anything else that had happened. I should have been horrified, disgusted with myself. Instead, I felt safe. Complete. Like a piece of me I didn't know was missing had finally clicked into place. Kala's knot was still buried deep inside me, tying us together. Her chest rose and fell against my back, her arms wrapped around me possessively. Daria lay beside us, her hand trailing lazy patterns on my hip. How do you feel? Daria asked softly. Strange. Good. Full. I shifted slightly and gasped as the movement made Kala's knot press against that sensitive spot inside me. Don't move too much, Kala warned, her voice rough. You'll make it worse for both of us. Worse how? Worse isn't I'll want to again before my knot even goes down. Her teeth scraped my shoulder. And your body needs rest between rounds, even if your heat doesn't think so. Daria's hand moved from my hip to my face, turning me toward her. We're going to take care of you through all of this. Feed you, keep you hydrated, make sure you don't hurt yourself. But you need to tell us if anything becomes too much. Can you do that? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Words, Kieran. Kalla's hand splayed across my stomach. We need to hear you say it. I'll tell you. If it's too much. Good girl. The praise sent warmth through me. Kalla's knot was finally starting to shrink. The pressure easing. Almost there. Just a little longer. When she finally slipped free, I felt the loss immediately. Empty. Wrong. I made a sound of protest before I could stop myself. Both alphas went very still. What was that? Daria's eyes were dark and tense. Did you just whimper because Kalla pulled out? Heat flooded my face. No. Yes, you did. Kalla turned me in her arms so I was facing her. You like being filled. Like feeling owned. I don't. Your body doesn't lie even when your mouth does. Her hand slid between my legs, fingers finding the mess she'd left inside me. You're clenching around nothing. Trying to keep me in. Your body knows what it wants. Daria moved behind me, her chest against my back. I was sandwiched between them, surrounded by alpha scent and body heat. Her hand joined her sister's. Both of them touching me, exploring. My turn, Daria murmured against my ear. I want to feel you squeeze around me. Want to hear those pretty sounds you make. I need water first, I said, my throat dry and raw. Of course. Daria pulled back. Stay here. I'll get supplies. She left the bed, and I immediately felt the loss of her warmth. Kalla pulled me closer, her hand tangling in my hair. You're doing so well, she said. Better than we expected for your first time. What did you expect? More fear. More resistance. Her eyes searched mine. You surprised us. You're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm falling apart. You are. And we're going to put you back together. Better than before. She kissed me, slow and deep. You're ours now, Kieran. This heat is just sealing what was already decided. Daria returned with bottles of water and protein bars. Eat. Drink. You need your strength. I wanted to argue that I wasn't hungry, but my stomach betrayed me with a loud growl. Kalla laughed, sitting up and pulling me with her. They bracketed me again, watching as I drank half a bottle of water in one go. Slower, Daria cautioned. You'll make yourself sick. I forced myself to slow down, then unwrapped a protein bar. The food was bland but necessary. My body was burning through energy faster than I could replenish it. How long does this last? I asked between bites. For a Virgin Omega? 2 to 3 days, usually. Kalla's hand rubbed circles on my lower back. But we'll make sure you come through it safely. 3 days. 72 hours of this intensity, this need, this complete loss of control. I didn't know if I'd survive it. You will, Daria said, and I realized I'd spoken out loud. We'll make sure of it. She took the half-eaten protein bar from my hands, set it aside. Enough food. You need something else now. She was right. The brief respite had only made the heat worse. My skin was on fire again, every nerve ending screaming for touch, for relief, for them. Please, I whispered. Please what? Daria's hand cupped my face. Tell us what you need. You. I need you. Her smile was gentle. Then you'll have me. She guided me onto my back, settling between my legs. Where Kalla had been rough and demanding, Daria was slow and careful. She kissed me thoroughly, her tongue exploring my mouth while her hands mapped every inch of my skin. So beautiful, she murmured against my lips. I've dreamed about this. About having you like this. Open and wanting. Her fingers found my entrance, already loose from Kalla, slick with her release. She worked 2 fingers in easily, scissoring them, stretching me further. Still so tight, she groaned. Even after Kala. You're gripping my fingers like you don't want to let go. I don't want to be empty, I admitted. You won't be. Not for a long time. She positioned herself, the blunt head of her pressing against me. Ready? I nodded, then remembered. Yes. Please. Yes. She pushed in slowly. So slowly. I wanted to scream. Where Kala had been all intensity and possession, Daria was deliberate and thorough. Each inch was a calculated assault on my senses. Breathe, she coached. Let me in. That's it. Perfect. When she was fully seated, she stilled. Her forehead dropped to mine, her breath coming hard. You feel incredible. So hot. So tight. I could stay inside you forever. Then move, I demanded, past shame, past pride. Please. Move. She did. Long, deep movements that hit every sensitive spot inside me. Her pace was measured, controlled, designed to drive me insane. Kala appeared beside us, her hand finding me again, stroking in time with Daria's rhythm. Watch her, Kala said. See how good she makes you feel. That's what it means to be ours. We know your body better than you do. Daria's rhythm increased. Still controlled, but harder now. Her hand gripped my hip, angling me so each movement went deeper. I was making sounds I didn't recognize. Pleas and moans and broken versions of their names. Going to knot you, Daria gritted out. Going to fill you up just like Kala did. Mark you from the inside out. Yes. Please. Need it. Her knot began to swell, pressing against me with each movement. The pressure was overwhelming. Perfect. Exactly what my body was screaming for. When she finally locked inside me, her knot fully expanded, I came again. The orgasm ripped through me with brutal intensity, my vision going dark at the edges. Daria collapsed over me, holding me close as her own release pulsed inside me. Mine, she growled against my neck. Ours. I agreed, too far gone to care how it sounded. Both of yours. Kala's hand stroked my hair. There it is. Acceptance. About damn time. They held me between them as Daria's knot slowly deflated. The heat was finally starting to ease, my body satisfied for now. Exhaustion pulled at me, dragging me towards sleep. Rest, Daria murmured. We'll be here when you wake up. Don't leave, I mumbled, already halfway gone. Never. Kala promised. We're not going anywhere. I drifted off between them, surrounded by their scent, their warmth, their complete possession. When I woke hours later, they were still there. Still touching me. Still watching me like I was something precious. The heat came in waves over the next 2 days. Moments of desperate need followed by brief periods of clarity. They fed me, bathed me, held me through the worst of it. They took me together and separately. In the bed. In the shower. Once against the windows overlooking the city. They learned every sound I made. Every spot that made me shake. Every way to take me apart and put me back together. By the time my heat finally broke, I was marked inside and out. Not with bonding bites. They hadn't claimed me that permanently yet, but with their scent, their touch, their complete ownership of my body. I woke up clear-headed for the first time in days. The bedroom was dim, late afternoon light filtering through the curtains. I was clean, dressed in soft clothes I didn't remember putting on. The bed beside me was empty but still warm. Voices drifted from the living room. I stood on shaky legs. My body sore in ways I'd never experienced. Every step reminded me of what we'd done, how thoroughly they'd possessed me. I found them on the couch, both fully dressed, looking at something on Daria's phone. They looked up when I appeared. You're awake. Daria stood, moving to my side. How do you feel? Sore. Tired. Strange. Strange how? Kala was there too, both of them flanking me like they couldn't help it. Like I'm not the same person I was 3 days ago. You're not, Daria said simply. You're ours now. That changes everything. She was right. Something fundamental had shifted inside me during my heat. I'd gone into it fighting, resisting, determined to maintain some distance. I'd come out of it completely claimed, unable to deny what my body had been telling me all along. I wanted them. Both of them. Not because they'd bought me, but because they'd shown me what it felt like to be wanted. Cherished. Thoroughly possessed. What happens now? I asked. Kala's smile was slow, dangerous. Now we show you what life is really like with us. The heat was just the beginning, Kieran. We've got 6 months to make you forget you ever wanted to leave. And after 6 months? After 6 months, Daria said, her hand finding mine. We convince you to stay forever. The word forever hung in the air between us. Heavy. Final. 3 days ago it would have terrified me. Now, standing in their penthouse, wearing their scent like a second skin, I wasn't sure how I felt. I need to call the hospital, I said instead of responding. Check on Elena. Already done. Kala pulled out her phone, showed me the screen. Text messages from Dr. Martinez. She's responding well to treatment. Vitals improving. They're optimistic about bringing her out of the coma within the week. Relief crashed through me so hard my knees buckled. Daria caught me, her arm around my waist. Easy. You're still weak. She's really getting better? We told you we'd save her. Kala's hand settled on my shoulder. We keep our promises, Kieran. Can I see her? They exchanged a look. Some silent conversation I couldn't decipher. Not yet, Daria said carefully. You still smell like us. Like heat. The hospital is full of alphas who'd notice immediately. We need to wait until your scent normalizes. How long? A few days. Maybe a week. Kala moved closer, crowding me between them. We're not trying to keep you from her. We're protecting you. An unmated Omega who just went through heat is vulnerable. Tempting. We can't risk. I'm not unmated. The words came out before I could stop them. You both, multiple times. Nodding isn't mating. Daria's hand came up, traced the unmarked skin of my neck. Mating requires a bite during heat. A bond that ties us together permanently. We didn't do that. Why not? Another exchanged glance. Kala's joy tightened. Because that's not something you can take back. We wanted you to choose it. Not have it forced on you when you were out of your mind with need. The consideration should have made me grateful. Instead it felt like rejection. Like they'd held something back while I'd given them everything. I need air, I said, pulling away from both of them. I need to think. You're not leaving the penthouse. Kala's voice went hard. That's not negotiable. Then I'll go to my room. I walked away before they could stop me. Closed the door and pressed my back against it. My body ached in ways that reminded me of every touch, every claim, every moment I'd begged them for more. But my mind was clearer now, and clarity brought questions I didn't have answers to. They'd saved Elena. They'd taken care of me through my heat. They'd been gentle when they could have been rough, patient when they could have been demanding. But they'd also bought me like property. Trapped me in a gilded cage. And now they were talking about forever like it was inevitable. A knock on the door made me jump. Kieran? Daria's voice soft. Please let me in. I turned the lock, opened the door. She stood there alone, concern written across her features. Kala's on a call, she said. Business. I wanted to talk to you alone. About what? About why you're upset. She stepped inside, closed the door behind her. You're feeling rejected because we didn't bond you during your heat. I'm not. Don't lie to me. We can smell your emotions, remember? You're hurt. She moved closer, her hands gentle on my shoulders. We didn't bond you because we want it to mean something. Not just biology and heat, but actual choice. When we mark you, if we mark you, we want you to beg us for it with a clear head. You're so sure I will. Yes. No hesitation. Because you're already ours, Kieran. You just haven't admitted it to yourself yet. Her confidence should have annoyed me. Instead, it made something warm unfurl in my chest. You're arrogant. I'm honest. Her thumb brushed my jaw. And I'm patient. We have 6 months to prove we're more than the deal that brought you here. 6 months to show you what life could be like with us. Permanently. What if I still want to leave after 6 months? Pain flickered in her eyes. Then we let you go. With enough money to start over. Take care of Elena. Build whatever life you want. She leaned in, her forehead touching mine. But we'll never stop wanting you back. The admission cracked something in my chest. This is insane. All of this. 3 weeks ago, I didn't know you existed. Now I'm living with you, sleeping with you, wearing your scent. 3 months ago, we didn't know you existed either. Then we saw you at that gallery and everything changed. Her hands cupped my face. I know this happened fast. I know we pushed you into it with Elena's life on the line. But what we feel for you, that's real. Not bought. Not forced. Real. How can you know that? Because I've never felt this way about anyone. Her voice dropped lower. Because when you were in heat, calling our names, begging us to fill you, I didn't just want to, I wanted to keep you. Protect you. Make sure nothing ever hurt you again. The raw honesty in her voice made my throat tight. I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. Just feel. She kissed me, soft and slow. Not demanding. Just claiming. When she pulled back, her eyes were dark. Come out of this room. Have dinner with us. Let us show you who we are when we're not in the middle of a heat. Okay, I whispered. She took my hand, led me out. Kala was in the kitchen now, cooking something that smelled incredible. She looked up when we entered, her expression softening when she saw our joined hands. You're staying, she asked. For dinner, at least. I'll take it. She turned back to the stove. Pasta. Daria's fancy shit makes me crazy. Sometimes you just need carbs. The domesticity of it was surreal. These two powerful alphas who ran half of Chicago's underground, who'd bought me and claimed me and turned my life upside down, they were making dinner like a normal couple. Set the table, Kala ordered. Make yourself useful. I found plates, silverware, glasses. Daria poured wine while I arranged everything. By the time Kala brought the food over, we'd fallen into an easy rhythm that felt practiced despite being brand new. The pasta was simple but perfect. We ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Kala spoke. We need to talk about the family business. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. What about it? You're living with us now. That makes you a target. She set down her own fork, her expression serious. There are people who'd love to use you against us. Rivals. Enemies. Ambitious cousins who think they should be running things instead of us. Is that why you wanted an Omega? Protection? No. Daria's hand found mine on the table. We wanted you for you. But the reality is, being with us comes with risks. We need you to understand that. What kind of risks? Kala leaned back in her chair. Kidnapping attempts. Blackmail. Violence if someone gets desperate enough. We have security, obviously. The penthouse is a fortress. But you need to be aware. My appetite disappeared. So I'm not just bought property. I'm also bait. You're ours, Daria corrected. Which makes you the most valuable thing in our world. We'll protect you with everything we have. But we need you to be smart. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't trust anyone outside this penthouse. And if something feels wrong, you tell us immediately. The reality of what I'd agreed to was finally sinking in. This wasn't just 6 months of playing house with two wealthy alphas. This was dangerous. Potentially deadly. I want to see Elena, I said. As soon as possible. If something happens to me, I need to see her first. Nothing's going to happen to you. Kala's voice was steel. We won't allow it. You can't control everything. Watch us. She stood, moved behind my chair. Her hands settled on my shoulders, possessive and grounding. We've been running this city since we were 22. We've survived attempts on our lives, hostile takeovers, family betrayals. We know how to protect what's ours. And I'm yours. Completely. Her hands tightened. Which means anyone who tries to touch you will die screaming. We're not nice women, Kieran. We're not good. But we're loyal to the people we claim. You're at the top of that very short list now. The viciousness in her voice should have scared me. Instead, it made me feel safer than I had in years. These two women would burn the world down for me. They'd already proven it by saving Elena. Okay, I said quietly. I'll be careful. I'll follow your rules. But I need something in return. Name it, Daria said immediately. I want to keep painting. I want to sell my work. I want to maintain some independence. Some sense of who I was before all this. They exchanged another look. Then Calla nodded. The studio is yours. Paint whatever you want. We'll help you set up an online portfolio, handle sales through secure channels. But you use a pseudonym. No real name, no photos of you. We can't risk someone tracking you through your art. It was a compromise. Not freedom, but not total imprisonment either. Deal. Good. Daria raised her wine glass. To new beginnings. Calla raised hers. I lifted mine, the crystal catching the candlelight. To surviving the next 6 months, I said instead. They laughed, but I saw the determination in their eyes. They weren't planning on just 6 months. They were planning forever. Whether I was ready for it or not. We finished dinner in better spirits. Calla cleared the dishes while Daria showed me how to work the sound system. Apparently, they had a music collection worth more than most people's cars. I picked something instrumental, jazz that filled the space without demanding attention. Dance with me, Daria said, offering her hand. I don't dance. You do now. She pulled me close, one hand on my waist, the other holding mine. We swayed to the music, her body warm and solid against mine. Calla watched from the kitchen, her expression unreadable. When the song changed, she moved to us, fitting herself against my back. Sandwiched between them again. Surrounded by their scent and heat and possession. This is our life now, Daria murmured. The three of us. Learning each other. Building something together. Something unconventional, I said. Something ours, Calla corrected. Fuck conventional. Conventional doesn't work for us. The music swelled. They held me tighter. And for the first time since walking into their penthouse, I let myself imagine what 6 months might actually look like. What forever might feel like if I stopped fighting and just let go. It terrified me. It also felt inevitable. Like gravity pulling me toward them no matter how hard I tried to resist. Daria's phone buzzed in her pocket, breaking the moment. She pulled it out, her expression shifting from soft to hard in an instant. We need to take this. The music still played, but the warmth evaporated. Calla's hands tightened on my waist before she stepped back. Go to your room, Kieran. What's wrong? Business. Her voice left no room for argument now. I wanted to push back, demand answers, but something in their faces stopped me. This wasn't the playful possession from dinner. This was the dangerous side of them. The side that ran Chicago's underground. I went to my room, closed the door. But I could still hear their voices through the walls. Low and urgent. I pressed my ear against the door connecting to Daria's room. Don't care what she wants. Tell Uncle Marco the territory stays ours. Daria's voice, cold and commanding. She's not going to accept that. Calla's rougher tone. She's been pushing boundaries since Mom died. Testing us. Then we push back harder. A pause. No, not yet. We need to be smart about this. If we move too fast. Footsteps approaching my door made me jump back. The door opened. Calla stood there, her expression unreadable. Eavesdropping. You told me to stay in my room. You didn't say I couldn't listen. Her mouth curved despite the tension in her shoulders. Smartass. She moved inside, closed the door behind her. How much did you hear? Enough to know someone named Marco is causing problems. She sighed, ran a hand through her hair. Our aunt. Mom's sister. She thinks she should be running the family business instead of us. Been making moves, trying to undermine our authority. Is she dangerous? Everyone in our world is dangerous. She moved closer, her hand cupping my face. Which is why you need to be extra careful right now. Stay in the penthouse. Don't answer the door for anyone. If something feels wrong, you find us immediately. You're scaring me. Good. Fear keeps you alive. Her thumb brushed my jaw. We won't let anything happen to you, Kieran. But we need you to trust us. Can you do that? I nodded. Even though trust felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. What happens now? Now we handle Marco. She leaned in, pressed a kiss to my forehead. Stay here. Lock the door. We'll be back soon. Where are you going? To have a conversation that you don't need to witness. Her eyes were dark, predatory. The less you know about some aspects of our business, the safer you are. She left before I could respond. I heard them both moving through the penthouse, the elevator doors opening and closing, then silence. I was alone in a fortress 20 floors above Chicago, surrounded by luxury and locked doors and the lingering scent of two alphas who owned me in ways I still didn't fully understand. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt restless, caged. The studio called to me. I hadn't painted since before Elena's collapse. Hadn't felt inspired or energized enough to create. But now, with adrenaline and fear and confusion coursing through me, I needed to do something with my hands. The studio was dark. I flipped on the lights, flooding the space with bright white illumination. Blank canvases waited. Paints organized by color. Brushes of every size. I pulled out a large canvas, set it on the easel, grabbed paint without thinking. Blacks, grays, deep reds. My hands moved on instinct, creating without planning. Shapes emerged. Shadows. Two figures facing each other, mirror images with something dangerous and beautiful between them. I painted until my shoulders ached. Until the canvas was covered in layers of color and emotion I couldn't name. When I finally stepped back, I saw what I'd created. The twins. Not realistic, but impressionistic. All sharp angles and dangerous beauty. And between them, a smaller figure. Vulnerable. Caught. Claimed. Me. That's haunting. I spun. Daria stood in the doorway, still wearing the same clothes, but looking more disheveled. Her knuckles were bruised. You're back. I set down my brush. What happened? We had our conversation with Marco. She moved into the room, eyes fixed on the painting. She understands boundaries better now. Your knuckles are bleeding. Marco had bodyguards who disagreed with our terms. We convinced them otherwise. She turned to me, and I saw it then. The darkness under the charm. The violence she was capable of. Does that scare you? Knowing what we do? It should. But it doesn't. Not a question. She moved closer, backing me against the table covered in paints. You see us clearly, don't you? Not the polished version we show the world. The real us. I see two women who will do anything to protect what's theirs. Including me. Especially you. Her hands bracketed me on either side, trapping me. Marco asked about you tonight. Asked if the rumors were true, that we'd bought ourselves a pretty omega to keep our bed warm. Anger flared hot in my chest. What did you tell her? That you're ours. That anyone who so much as looks at you wrong will answer to both of us. That we'd burn this entire city down before letting someone touch what belongs to us. Her hand came up, traced my jaw. She didn't believe me. Thought we were bluffing. Thought you were just a temporary thing. What changed her mind? Kala broke her lieutenant's arm when she suggested you'd be better off with an alpha who could handle you alone. Her eyes searched mine. We don't share well with others, Kieran. We share with each other because we're two parts of the same whole. But anyone else who tries to stake a claim, they don't walk away. The possessiveness should have felt suffocating. Instead, it made me feel valued, protected, wanted in a way I'd never experienced. Where's Kella? Cleaning up. She'll be back soon. Daria's hand slid to the back of my neck, pulling me closer. I almost bonded you tonight. When Marco's woman said those things about you, all I could think about was marking you so thoroughly that every alpha in Chicago would smell our claim from a mile away. Why didn't you? Because I meant what I said earlier. When we bond you, it'll be your choice. Not made in anger or possessiveness, but because you want to belong to us permanently. Her forehead pressed to mine. Tell me you're starting to want that. I couldn't. The words stuck in my throat. Too honest. Too raw. She kissed me instead. Hard and demanding. Claiming me with her mouth the way she couldn't with her teeth. I kissed her back, pouring all my confusion and fear and reluctant desire into it. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Paint more, she said, stepping back. I like seeing how you process us. It's honest in a way words aren't. She left me alone in the studio, surrounded by evidence of how completely they'd invaded my psyche. I looked at the painting again. The two figures. The smaller one between them. Caught or protected. Trapped or cherished. Maybe it was both. I heard the elevator. Kalla's voice greeting her sister. Their footsteps moving through the penthouse. The sound of running water, one of them showering. I cleaned my brushes, put away the paints, left the canvas to dry. By the time I emerged from the studio, they were both in the living room. Kalla's knuckles were bandaged. Daria had changed into clean clothes. Come here, Kalla said, patting the couch between them. I went. Let them pull me down, arrange me between them like I belonged there. Their hands found me immediately. Daria's on my thigh. Kalla's in my hair. We need to tell you something, Daria said. About Elena. My heart stopped. Is she okay? Did something happen? She's fine. Better than fine, actually. Kalla's smile was wide. They're bringing her out of the coma tomorrow morning. She's going to wake up. Relief crashed through me so violently I couldn't breathe. Tomorrow? I can see her. We'll take you. Kalla's hand tightened in my hair. But there are conditions. You don't tell her about us. About the deal. As far as she knows, you got a new job with better pay and benefits that covered her medical care. I have to lie to her? You have to protect her, Daria corrected. If she knows the truth, she becomes a target. Marco already knows about you. We can't risk her finding out about Elena and using her as leverage. The logic made sense even as it felt wrong. Elena and I had never kept secrets from each other. But this wasn't just my secret. It was my survival. Her survival. Okay, I agreed. I'll lie. Good girl. Kalla pressed a kiss to my temple. We'll leave at 7. The hospital's running the procedure at 8. You'll be there when she wakes up. Emotion welled up in my chest. I'd been waiting for this moment for weeks. Since the night I'd watched her collapse. Since the ambulance ride. Since the doctors told me she might never wake up. Tomorrow I'd see her eyes open. Hear her voice. Know that I'd made the right choice. Even if that choice had cost me my freedom. Thank you, I whispered. For saving her. We told you we'd keep our promises. Daria's arm came around my shoulders. We take care of what's ours. That includes your sister, since she matters to you. We sat there in silence, the city glittering beyond the windows. Two alphas and their bot omega, pretending this was normal. Pretending this could last. But normal didn't exist in their world. And lasting required more than possession. It required trust one wasn't sure I could give. Bed, Kalla said eventually. Tomorrow's going to be emotional. You need rest. They walked me to my room, both of them lingering in the doorway. Do you want us to stay? Daria asked. We can sleep in here if you don't want to be alone. Part of me wanted to say yes. to fall asleep surrounded by their warmth and wake up knowing they were close. But I needed space to think, to process everything that had happened. I'm okay alone. Something flickered in Kala's expression. Disappointment, maybe. But she nodded. Door stays unlocked. If you need us, we're right across the hall. They left. I changed into sleep clothes, climbed into bed. The sheets still smelled like them. Like us. Like everything we'd done during my heat. Sleep was a long time coming. When it finally found me, my dreams were full of hospital corridors and Elena's voice calling my name and two alphas standing between me and the exit, asking me to stay. Morning came too early. Sunlight streamed through the windows. A knock on my door pulled me from uneasy sleep. Kieran? Time to get up. Daria's voice gentle. I dragged myself out of bed, stumbled to the bathroom. The mirror showed someone I barely recognized. Marks fading on my neck. Shadows under my eyes. Hair longer than I usually kept it. I looked claimed. Owned. I looked like theirs. The shower helped clear my head. By the time I emerged, clothes were laid out on the bed. Jeans, a soft gray sweater, the leather jacket Kala had bought me. Comfortable but expensive. Nothing that screamed, bought Omega, but everything that marked me as belonging to wealth. They were waiting in the kitchen, both dressed casually but still radiating power. Kala handed me coffee the moment I appeared. Drink. You look dead on your feet. Couldn't sleep. We know. We heard you moving around. Daria set a plate in front of me. Eggs, toast, fruit. Eat. Then we go. I forced food down despite my stomach being in knots. Today I'd see Elena. Today I'd have to lie to her face about how I was affording her care. Today I'd have to pretend everything was fine while wearing another woman's scent. 2 women's scents. The drive to the hospital took 20 minutes. They'd brought security, 2 SUVs, one in front and one behind. The level of protection should have felt ridiculous. Instead, it reminded me how dangerous their world really was. We pulled up to the private entrance. Dr. Martinez was waiting, tablet in hand, looking pleased. Miss Hayes, your timing's perfect. We're just about to begin the procedure to bring Elena out of the coma. Her eyes flicked to the twins, recognition and wariness crossing her features. Ladies. Doctor. Daria's hand found my lower back, possessive even here. We'll wait in the family lounge. Dr. Martinez led us through corridors that smelled like antiseptic and desperation. The family lounge was empty, thankfully private, with a view of the city and comfortable furniture that couldn't disguise its purpose. A place for people to wait while their loved ones lived or died. It'll take about an hour, Dr. Martinez said. We'll come get you the moment she's conscious. Then she was gone, and I was alone with them. Kala pulled me down onto the couch beside her. She's going to be fine. You don't know that. Yes, I do. She's a fighter. Like you. Her hand squeezed mine. She's going to wake up, see your face, and know everything was worth it. Even though I sold myself to save her. You didn't sell yourself. You made a choice. There's a difference. Daria sat on my other side. She's going to have questions about where you've been, why you look different, who we are. Remember, new job, better benefits. We're friends who helped you out. Nothing more. I hate lying to her. I know. Her arm came around my shoulders. But sometimes lies protect the people we love better than truth does. We waited. Minutes crawled by like hours. I couldn't sit still, couldn't stop my leg from bouncing, couldn't quiet the anxiety screaming through my veins. Finally, Dr. Martinez appeared in the doorway. Her smile said everything. She's awake. Asking for you. I was on my feet before she finished speaking. The twins rose with me, flanking me like guards. Just me, I said. Please. Let me see her alone first. They exchanged a look. Then Kala nodded. We'll wait here. But if you need us. I know. I touched her hand briefly, then Daria's. Thank you for all of this. I followed Dr. Martinez down another corridor, through double doors into the ICU. Elena's room was at the end. Through the window I could see her, sitting up slightly, tubes and wires still attached, but eyes open. Alert. Alive. I pushed through the door. Her head turned. Her face lit up. Kieran. Her voice was rough, weak, but it was her voice. I crossed the room in 3 strides, pulled her into the gentlest hug I could manage around all the medical equipment. You're awake. God, you're actually awake. What happened? Her arms came around me, shaking. The last thing I remember is practice. Coach was running drills and then nothing. You collapsed. Brain aneurysm. You've been in a coma for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. She pulled back, eyes wide. Holy shit. How are we paying for all this? The doctors, the private room, I saw the equipment. I got a new job. Really good benefits. They covered everything. Her eyes narrowed. What kind of job? Art acquisition for a private collector. It pays really well. The lies tasted bitter. I've been working with them for a few months. When you got sick, they helped me out. Months? You never mentioned a new job. I didn't want to jinx it. I squeezed her hand. The important thing is you're okay. You're going to recover fully. The doctors are optimistic. Where have you been staying? You look, she studied my face. Different. Healthier, I guess. Less exhausted. The collectors gave me a place to stay while you were here. Closer to the hospital. More lies. Each one adding to the weight on my chest. Can I meet them? I should thank them for helping us. They're private people. They prefer to stay anonymous. I changed the subject before she could push. How do you feel? Are you in pain? Sore. Confused. Tired. She leaned back against the pillows. But alive. Thanks to you. Guilt twisted in my stomach. Thanks to me selling myself to 2 dangerous alphas. Thanks to me agreeing to 6 months of being their kleptomega. Thanks to me giving up everything to save her. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Rest, I said. I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise. I stayed with her for 2 hours while she drifted in and out of sleep, while nurses checked vitals and doctors asked questions. When she finally fell into deeper sleep, Dr. Martinez gestured me outside. She's doing remarkably well. Better than we hoped. The experimental treatment worked better than projected. She should make a full recovery. How long until she can go home? 2 weeks, maybe 3. We want to monitor her, make sure there's no regression. But barring complications, she'll be discharged by mid-October. Relief made my knees weak. Thank you for everything. Thank your benefactors. Her eyes were knowing. Whoever they are, they saved her life. I found the twins in the lounge exactly where I'd left them. They looked up when I entered, identical expressions of concern. How is she? Daria asked. Awake. Talking. Herself. I sank onto the couch between them. She asked about you. I lied. Said you were anonymous benefactors who wanted privacy. Good. Kalla's arm came around me. That's safest for everyone. She's going to be discharged in 2 or 3 weeks. She'll need somewhere to stay while she recovers. They exchanged another look. She can stay with us, Daria said. We have guest rooms. She'll have everything she needs. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. We're offering. Her hand found mine. She's your family. That makes her our responsibility now too. The generosity should have made me grateful. Instead it made me feel more trapped. More indebted. More owned. What's wrong? Kalla's hand tilted my face toward her. You should be happy. She's awake. She's recovering. I am happy. I struggled for words. This isn't how I wanted my life to go. Any of this. Life rarely goes how we plan. Daria stood, pulled me up with her. But sometimes the detours lead somewhere better than the original destination. Is that what you think this is? Better. For us, absolutely. Kala moved to my other side. For you, that's what the next 6 months are about. Figuring out if this arrangement becomes something more. We left the hospital surrounded by security. Climbed back into the SUV. The drive home was quiet. I stared out the window, watching Chicago pass by, thinking about Elena's face when she saw me, the lies I'd told, the life I was living now. Back at the penthouse, they gave me space. I went to the studio, pulled out a fresh canvas, started painting without thinking. Elena's face. The hospital room. The weight of secrets. Hours passed. The light changed. Shadows stretched across the floor. Dinner's ready. I turned. Daria stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You barely touched breakfast. She moved into the room, looked at what I'd created. She looks like you. Same eyes. She's all I have left of my family. No. Daria's hand settled on my shoulder. She's not all you have. You have us now too. For 6 months. Or longer, if you choose it. She turned me to face her. I know this isn't what you planned. I know you feel trapped, obligated, owned. But somewhere in the last few weeks, this stopped being just a transaction for us. We meant it when we said we want you permanently. You don't know me well enough for that. We know enough. We know you're loyal, strong, talented, fierce when protecting what you love. We know you taste like salvation and sound like prayer when we're inside you. We know your scent drives us crazy and your art makes us feel things we didn't know we were capable of. Her hands cupped my face. That's enough. The rest we'll learn together. What if I still want to leave? Pain flickered in her eyes. Then we'll honor our deal. But I don't think you will. I think you're already ours, Kieran. You're just too scared to admit it. She kissed me before I could respond. Soft, persuasive, full of promises I wasn't sure I believed. When she pulled back, Kala was there too. Both of them surrounding me, claiming me without words. Come eat, Kala said. Tomorrow we'll visit Elena again. Tonight, let us take care of you. I let them lead me out of the studio, back into their world. Let them feed me and touch me and hold me like I was something precious. Let myself pretend, just for tonight, that this could actually work. That 6 months might turn into forever. That being theirs wasn't imprisonment, but freedom of a different kind. The next 3 weeks blurred together. Days spent at the hospital with Elena, watching her grow stronger. Nights spent in the penthouse with the twins, learning the rhythm of their lives. My heat came again. Briefer this time. They took care of me with the same intensity as before. Still didn't bond me. Still waiting for me to choose it. Elena was discharged on a Thursday. The twins converted one of their guest rooms into a recovery suite, hospital bed, physical therapy equipment, everything she'd need. She moved in with wide eyes and questions I deflected. This is where you've been staying? She looked around the penthouse like she couldn't process the wealth. These collectors must really value your work. They do, Daria said smoothly, appearing with fresh towels. Your sister has exceptional talent. We're lucky to have her. Elena's eyes narrowed slightly, looking between me and the twins. I could see her processing, calculating. She was too smart not to sense something was off. So you both collect art? She asked. Among other things. Kala joined us, arms crossed. We invest in things of value. Your sister qualifies. The double meaning wasn't lost on me. I shot Kala a warning look. She smiled innocently. Over the following days, Elena recovered rapidly. Physical therapy 3 times a week. Strength returning. By the end of the month, she was walking without assistance, laughing at shows in the entertainment room, eating meals with us like this was normal. But she watched. Noticed how the twins touched me constantly. How I responded to their presence, their scent, their commands disguised as suggestions. How we moved around each other like a unit. She cornered me one afternoon while they were at a meeting. Kieran, we need to talk. I knew this was coming. About what? About them. About why you smell like alpha. Why they look at you like you're theirs. Why you're really here. No point lying now. She'd figured it out. They saved your life. When insurance wouldn't cover your treatment, they paid for everything. In exchange, I agreed to stay with them for 6 months. Her face went pale. You sold yourself for me. I made a choice. Same as Mom did when she worked 3 jobs to keep us fed. That's different. She wasn't. She struggled for words. They own you. They take care of me. There's a difference. Is there? Her hands clenched. You're sleeping with both of them. Living in their house. Wearing their scent. That's not taking care of you. That's possession. Maybe. I met her eyes. But I'm alive. You're alive. That's what matters. For how long? What happens when 6 months is up and they decide they're not done with you? Then I decide if I want to stay. The admission surprised us both. Elena stared at me. You're actually considering staying permanently? I don't know what I'm considering. I just know it's more complicated than you think. They're dangerous women, Kieran. I've been doing research. The Moretti family isn't just wealthy, they're criminals. They run half the illegal operations in Chicago. I know what they are. And you're okay with that? Was I? A month ago, the answer would have been no. Now, after seeing how they'd protected me, cared for me, valued me in ways no one else ever had, I wasn't sure. I'm okay with being alive, I said finally. I'm okay with you being alive. Everything else is just details. Before she could respond, the elevator opened. The twins returned, both stopping when they saw us. Everything okay? Daria's eyes tracked between us, reading the tension. Fine, Elena said. But her voice was cold. I was just telling my sister that she deserves better than being someone's bot omega. Kala's expression went dangerous. Careful, kid. You're alive because of us. Don't forget that. I haven't forgotten. That's the problem. You used her love for me against her. Trapped her in a deal she couldn't refuse. Elena, I started. No. She turned to me. I love you. You're all the family I have. But I won't watch you destroy yourself for me. If staying here is the price of my life, then maybe. Don't. My voice came out harsh. Don't you dare finish that sentence. I chose this. Me. Not them, not you. Me. And I'd do it again. Silence fell. Heavy. Suffocating. Finally, Daria spoke. Elena, I understand your anger. If I had a sister and someone put her in this position, I'd want to kill them. But the reality is, we saved both of you. And yes, we asked for something in return. That's how our world works. Nothing is free. It doesn't have to stay a transaction, Kala added. We care about your sister. Actually care. Not just as property. If she chooses to leave when 6 months is up, we'll let her go. With money, protection, everything she needs to start over. But if she chooses to stay, then she stays because she wants to, not because she's trapped. Daria moved to my side. We're not monsters, Elena. We're women who want your sister in our lives permanently. But only if she wants that too. Elena looked at me. Do you want that? The question hung in the air. 3 months ago, the answer would have been obvious. Now, with their scent on my skin, their marks fading on my body, their presence woven into every part of my life, I didn't know. I don't know yet, I admitted. Ask me in 3 months. It wasn't the answer anyone wanted, but it was honest. Elena nodded slowly. Okay, 3 months. But if they hurt you, if they cross a line, then I'll leave. And they'll let me go. Right? I looked at the twins. Right, they said in unison. The tension eased slightly. Not gone, but manageable. Elena went back to her room. The twins and I stood in the living room, the weight of the conversation settling around us. She's protective, Daria said. I respect that. She's scared I'm losing myself to you, I corrected. She might be right. Kala's hand found my jaw, tilted my face toward her. You're not losing yourself. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. Ours. That's what scares me most. How good it feels to belong to you. Then stop fighting it. Her thumb brushed my lower lip. 3 months left on our deal. Let us spend it proving we're worth staying for. Daria's arms came around me from behind. We'll make it impossible for you to leave, Kieran. Not with force or obligation. With devotion. We'll worship you so thoroughly you'll forget there was ever a time before us. They were right. That's exactly what scared me. Because somewhere between the desperate deal and the heat and the quiet moments between chaos, I'd started falling for them. Both of them. And I had no idea how to stop. Okay, I whispered. 3 months. Show me. They did. Every day for the next 12 weeks, they showed me what life could be like permanently. They took me to museums and private dinners and underground clubs where Chicago's elite played. They defended me from Marco's continued attempts to undermine them. They held me through nightmares and celebrated when I sold my first painting under my pseudonym. They made love to me like I was precious, and they made sure I never forgot I was both. Elena slowly warmed to them. Saw how they treated me, how they protected both of us, how they'd integrated us into their dangerous world while keeping us as safe as possible. My next heat came and went. They still didn't bond me. Still waiting. The 6-month mark approached like a deadline and a promise. 3 days before, Calla found me in the studio. We need to talk. I set down my brush. About? About what happens next. Your contract is up in 72 hours. We need to know if you're staying or leaving. You said I had 3 more days. You do. But we need to prepare either way. If you're leaving, we'll set up accounts, security, make sure you and Elena are taken care of. If you're staying, she moved closer. If you're staying, we're bonding you permanently. No more half measures. My heart hammered. That's a big decision. You've had 6 months to think about it. What's your answer, Kieran? I don't know yet. She studied my face. Yes, you do. You're just scared to say it. She was right. I'd known for weeks what my answer would be. I'd just been too terrified to admit it. I want to stay, I whispered. God help me, I want to stay. Her smile was fierce. Triumphant. Then you will. Tomorrow night. Your heat should start in the next 24 hours. When it does, we're claiming you completely. Both of us. Bonding bites, mating marks, everything. You'll be ours officially. What if I change my mind? You won't. She pulled me against her. Because you already chose us, Kieran. Your body, your heart, your soul, they all know where you belong. Your mind just needed time to catch up. She kissed me. Claiming and promise wrapped together. When she pulled back, her eyes were dark with intent. Tomorrow night, everything changes. Be ready. She left me in the studio, surrounded by paintings of them. Of us. Of the life I'd built in their world. Elena found me an hour later. You're staying, she said. Not a question. Yeah, I'm staying. She was quiet for a long moment. Are you happy? Was I? 6 months ago, happiness felt impossible. Now, standing in a studio they'd given me, wearing clothes they'd bought me, carrying their scent like a badge of honor, I realized something. Yeah, I said. I actually am. She hugged me tight. Then I'm happy for you. Even if they're dangerous criminals who technically bought you. I laughed to spite myself. They did not buy me. They absolutely did. But I guess it worked out okay. She pulled back, eyes serious. They hurt you, I'll kill them. I don't care how powerful they are. Deal. Deal. That night, the 3 of us ate dinner together. The twins told me their plans for tomorrow. Dinner at an exclusive restaurant, then back here for my heat. They talked about the bonding like it was inevitable. Decided already. Done. Maybe it was. We went to bed early. Not to sleep, but to be close. They held me between them, hands gentle, mouth soft. Worshipping rather than claiming. Tomorrow, you're ours forever, Daria murmured against my neck. No more contracts. No more negotiations. Just us, bound together permanently. Are you scared? Kala asked. Terrified, I admitted. But also ready. Good. Her hand found mine squeezed. Because we're never letting you go, Kiran. Not in this life or any other. You're ours. Finally. Completely. Permanently. Ours. I fell asleep between them, their scent surrounding me, their promises echoing in my mind. Tomorrow everything would change. Tomorrow the Bottomega would become the bonded mate. Tomorrow 6 months of pretending would become forever of choosing. And for the first time since walking into that penthouse, I wasn't afraid of forever. I was ready for it. The end.